It is a time when those who control the magic control destiny. When spectral knights battle evil darkling lords.
Visionaries, knights of the magical light. Visionaries, with magical powers they fight. Visionaries.
They're attacking! Use your mind control power! They stolen it! Now I'll control their minds, and my magical power will shake the earth!
Visionaries, knights of the magical light.
Visionaries from Hasbro.
Can Donovan and his band of rebels save the world from alien domination? V continues tonight at 8 on WBTV Super 18, Wisconsin's Superstation.
Mr. Game Show here with famous places for big bucks.
Mount Everest.
Wrong, Dad. Glad you're not a tour guide. Go for it, JJ.
The North Pole.
Correctamundo. You win the grand prize, an advanced entertainment system. Me, Mr. Game Show from Galoob, the game show you play at home.
This is the Micro Machine Man presenting the most midget miniature motorcade of Micro Machine. Each one has dramatic details, terrific trims, stupendous styling, precision paint jobs, working wheels, Micro Machine cars of vast variety, including Lamborghini, Trans Am, Corvette, 4x4, Blazer, pickup Charger, and many more. Micro Machine planes, Micro Machine boats, a miniature midget colossal collection of Micro Machines. Collect them, trade them, race them. The Micro Machines from Galoob.
So, more soldiers of the future for Captain Power.
Yeah, now we're part of that. Look out! TV show fires back. Hey, what's that?
I'm with Lord Dread now. The Phantom Striker jet fires invisible beams back at the TV. Or the Power Jet XT7.
I don't believe it. Believe it.
Score or be hit with the Phantom Striker. The power of the future.
In my hands.
Believe it.
Captain Power, jets and figures sold separately. Batteries not included.
Kid, if you were from outer space, what would you look like?
I'd be orange, ugly,
and have two heads?
Run, Sue! You'd be better power up with the Cheerios breakfast.
A balanced breakfast like this one.
You got go with Cheerios, the go-go power of Power-O's. You got the go and it really shows. The go-go power of Cheerios. You're feeling your Cheerios.
Cheerios!
I want to blast way into the future, live in outer space. I want to ride off into the sunset, move at a faster pace. Cause I'm a creator with my animator, nothing can stop me now. A creator with my animator, watch I'll show you how.
The Etch-a-Sketch Animator brings your drawings to life. Batteries not included. The Animator from Ohio Art.
Baby grows from her head to her toes. Baby grows.
Baby grows. She grows from a baby into a 4-year-old toddler, just like a real baby growing up. Baby grows even has teeth that come in, and you'll love her cute little outfit. It's always a perfect fit for whatever age you want her to be.
From her head to her toes. Baby grows.
Living well, lady. We've got the work.
Great news! Living Well Lady is having a great offer. Get to the phone right now and call the Living Well Lady nearest you, and you'll get the workout that works for only $59. That's $59 for 1 year of fitness. So find out the difference between just living and living well for just $59. Call now, but hurry, this is a limited time offer.
We've got the work. I keep on dancing dancing on a treasure track right now. Shake it, baby. Come on, show me how you work. Now you're in motion. Now you're gonna do the locomotion, yeah.
Little boppers from Worlds of Wonder. Pop till you drop.
Oh, your mom makes you stop.
Look what I won on Super 18.
Look what I won on Super 18. Look what I won on Super 18. Look what I won on Super 18.
These kids are all Super Kid Contest winners, and you can win too. Just send your name, address, phone number, and birthday to Super Kid Contest, P.O. Box 16676, Milwaukee. Then watch Super 18. If you see your name, Super 18 will call. Tell us the show you saw it in, and you win.
Just watch and win with Super 18.
Power. Now, you are playing with power.
Punch Out by Nintendo.
Play
11 world-class contenders. Take them down with your controller, beat them all, and you've got a shot at Tyson's title. Power! But for that, you've got to beat Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson's Punch-Out from Nintendo. Now you're playing with power.
Born in fire, formed in flames, but it's not afraid of the dark.
Ready?
Ready.
If you're ready for fast action, you're ready for the hot new Turbo Glow jump set from Hot Wheels. Take a jump to avoid a crash.
You won't make it. Watch me.
Or make a break for the exit ramp.
We did it!
Turbo Glow jump set includes everything you see here, not for use with some cars. Your parents put it together.
They're not afraid of the dark.
TurboTrack Turbo Glow jump set from Hot Wheels, born in fire. Starcom fights off Earth's attackers. With a breakthrough in space. With a breakthrough in space technology. Power deploy. It activates Starcom equipment. Transports Starcom combat troops. Mobilizes Starcom aircraft. Figures and vehicles each sold separately. And no batteries needed. Power deploy. Starcom's got it. But so does the Shadow Force. Who will control Earth?
So the girl filled her cart in the Toys R Us store. And when that cart was filled with toys, she filled up 15 more.
You can fill your child's Toys R Us cart with values like Galoob's Mr. Game Show.
You want to play a tape game, huh? Fantastico!
Galoob's Mr. Game Show, $99.99 at Toys R Us.
Love growing up with my Toys R Us kid.
Toys R Us. You'll never outgrow us.
Weekdays at 4:30. Enter the Super Kid Contest. You could be the lucky winner of one of these great prizes or a gift certificate from Toys R Us. Watch and win with Super 18.
Joe will be right back after these messages.
I'm a My Little Pony mommy with the prettiest family. 'Cause now the My Little Pony Punch Up combs their hair so beautifully. It doesn't take long to burn their hair. They sure look great to me. Then I put on pony makeup, makes them pretty as can be. I'm a My Little Pony mommy, and now I'm happy as can be. 'Cause a My Little Pony Perm Shop beautifies my family.
My Little Pony Perm Shop comes with Fifi and hair curling spray.
Awesome, we got Lucky totally captured.
Now we'll get his Lucky Charms for sure.
Oh, I'll make a hang glider and escape with the Lucky Charms, the crunchy oat cereal with a rainbow of marshmallow surprises. Pink heart, orange stars, yellow moons, green clovers, blue diamonds, and purple horseshoes. Whoa!
Yikes! Oh, it looks like you've been grounded.
Totally tubular.
Frosted Lucky Charms.
A marshmallowy part of this nutritious breakfast. They're like magically delicious.
Her cart in the Toys R Us store. And when that cart was filled with toys, she filled up 15 more.
Now's a great time to fill your child's Toys R Us cart with Barbie values. A real wristwatch is included with Mattel's Fun Time Barbie, the Barbie Ferrari, and Barbie's Furnished Dream House, all at everyday low prices at your Mattel Barbie Center, Toys R Us.
Love growing up with my Toys R Us kid.
Toys R Us. You'll never outgrow us.
Lucky's cornered.
We'll get his Lucky Charms this time.
Time? That's it. I'll make a time tunnel and go back in time with the Lucky Charms. The crunchy oat cereal with a rainbow of marshmallow surprises. Pink hearts, orange stars, yellow moons, green clovers, blue diamonds, and purple horseshoes. Time sure fly. Yikes! Ouch, ouch, ouch. Guess the time ran out. Frosted Lucky Charms, a historic part of this nutritious breakfast.
Ooga mega.
Welcome, everyone. I hope everybody's having a fantastic weekend so far. I'm glad you're all here. Uh, um, yeah, so it's been a long trial for Letitia Stout. And really, it wasn't even as long as it was projected. I don't think so. Um, they're moving right along. Seems like, and now the jury deliberating is taking a little bit longer than most of us expected. We expected, I mean, I expected a quick verdict. But I what's up, Makeup Monster? Um, I mean, it is what it is. What it does is it, if it's going through the weekend onto Monday, that makes me feel okay. Because I would expect nothing less from the jury that's been asking the questions that they've been asking. I would expect nothing less than for them to be as thorough as possible. And whatever is going on in that room with those 12 people, I'm sure they've reached to a point to where they're saying, let's take the weekend and think it through. Let's, come back Monday, fresh minds, and see where we're at. That actually makes me feel pretty comfortable, actually. It tells me that these are not peasants in the jury pool. These are thinkers. These are people who want to make sure that they are not putting an innocent woman by reason of insanity away for life. This is a very serious decision for 12 people to come to an agreement to make. So we have to be very, very careful of that. Now, not surprisingly, there has been one person who has the only person I've heard say that they hope that Letitia Stout is found guilty by reason of insanity. I played it. It's there. The last canceled Karen live I did, it is there. I repeated it a bunch of times. I mean, she straight up said those words. Now, I understand that if this is a person who has actually been showing signs of being sick, and signs of someone who needs help, signs of someone who does suffer from a multiple personality disorder, such as dissociative identity disorder. And one of those personalities is the stepmother, loving, caring, nurturing person that she claims to be. Where is that person? We haven't seen this person. That's my problem. That's why I do not think that she is a good person. If you're going to claim an excuse like multiple personalities, one of those personalities fucking better be an innocent, decent person. Unfortunately, we have not seen one of those yet. And that one person who claims that they want Letitia to be found not guilty by reason of insanity would be canceled Karen, known as the Critical K. Yes. I mean, yeah, I know. Yeah, she's absolutely, absolutely fucking awful. And this is nothing new. And today I'm gonna play a little example. I'm gonna play a little example here of canceled Karen and why when someone I mean, also you got to kind of pay attention, folks. You got to kind of pay attention to what type of person is hoping that Letitia Stout is found guilty or found not guilty by reason of insanity. What type of person, what type caliber of person would want this, considering all of the evidence. Because here's the problem, people. The problem that I have with Letitia Stout being found not guilty by reason of insanity, if she is because what precedent does that set when it comes to innocent people being murdered, them getting justice? What precedent does that set? Where's the line? Because at that point, the line is blurred and crossed over. Because at what point do we hold people accountable for their actions? If you can just claim insanity despite the evidence and then claim that the reason why you're such a shitty, fucking selfish, fucked up person is because you need help, that's someone who's cold enough to murder an 11-year-old boy. Someone who there was this entire trial was showing evidence of how this person is completely and totally incapable of gratitude. Only capable of entitlement. This is what we refer to as a bad person, a bad seed, folks. Our grandparents used to refer to people like this as a bad seed. That's a bad seed right there. You know? So, what kind of person defends this behavior? Well, the type of person who's exuded it as long as we've known who she was. That would be, again, the Critical K. Canceled Karen. So I'm gonna go ahead and play her video. I do apologize, guys.
during watching the trial, during watching Dorothy's time on the stand. I do.
Okay, so for those of you who haven't watched me cover this person who's covering this trial, for those of you who haven't, then she claims that Dr. Dorothy Lewis was put in a position where it put us into a position to where we could have learned from her if we would have just let her talk. And forget anything that had to that pertained to the actual case itself. Fuck all that. Forget her sticking to what she's put on the stand for in the first place. Fuck all that. No, we have an opportunity to learn from her. Okay, right.
Stop it. Get some help. I think it's from gritting my teeth. That's where my little saying hurts my teeth. Like, I was gritting my teeth and I think I exacerbated something in my temple region, or it just could be menopause. It could be anything, right? And I've had like a 3-day long migraine. So bad, terrible. Like, my head hurts so bad that I toss and I turn, and I finally give up at like 5 a.m. and take something, and then I sleep fitfully. And
a big dump.
Yeah, it's just kind of par for the course. I really have to try to get some sleep tonight, though, because I'm dog sitting tomorrow and I got to get up early to do that. And so, but I have a lot to say. I've got a lot of thoughts. I'm not going to be recapping her testimony, and I'm going to be explaining why. But before I get to that, I made a post on Facebook, and it's causing quite a stir. I made a post complaining about people screaming kids in public spaces in the grocery store. And
so you Karen'd in the grocery store and then Karen'd on your Facebook page. I love it. Like, I love her name is literally Karen, folks.
The chickens are out squawking at me. I made the colossal error of making back-to-back 2 very triggering posts. One defending Amber Heard and letting people know that
You
it's
see
a
what I'm
complete
saying?
lie.
Like
that she-
everything she does is like, look at what she's doing here. The picture that she has chosen to share is that of Letitia and Gannon, designed to induce some sort of empathy for Letitia and to take that as evidence that Letitia loved Gannon. Despite all of the evidence to the contrary, despite all the evidence to the contrary, I mean, and I'm talking besides the fact that she stabbed him 18 times, shot him, and beat him over the head with something. Despite that, we're supposed to, I mean, there's despite that, there's evidence of the fact that she just did not like this boy. And he loved her. All he wanted was to be accepted by her. And ever since this case broke, she's done nothing but spread rumors about Al and about Landon, trash talk them. She's not doing it now. Do you know why she's not doing it now? Because she's already been sued by someone else for doing the same thing, and she lost. So $10 million, and canceled Karen doesn't have $10 million. So
she's leaving Hollywood and not going to be doing movies. And I don't know. She probably does have a house in Spain. Who cares? But I made that. And of course, out come the trash mouths, calling me all kinds of names, calling Amber all kinds of names. And I have no tolerance for it.
Amber's a fucking piece of shit.
I'm just booting,
Amber
blocking,
Heard
banning. I don't have any tolerance. If you can't have a civil discussion, I don't want you around me.
See, she gets mad when people can't have civil discussions with her. But she's the one who always resorts to calling someone stupid, calling them peasants. She's the one who always does this, right? Every single time. Belittles everyone she speaks to, right? And when someone, it's not crazy to blame someone. It's not crazy to not find blame in someone who hears the absurd shit that comes out of her and be almost offended by it. Now, I'm saying, if you're offended by that shit, then, okay, but that's kind of weird. But to be offended by the fact that such absurdity could come out of someone's mouth, someone's brain, and you follow them on social media, that's going to be a little infuriating. You're going to get a little mad about that. You're going to be like, fuck, really? This person who I've been supporting and following, and then they're just going to say the stupidest fucking shit I've ever heard. You can't blame them for getting pissed about that.
My comment section is not, that's not the place to be hateful and abusive to anyone. I don't know where people get off.
Hateful and
I
abusive.
don't do that.
Yes, you do.
I follow a number of people on Facebook, mostly funny stuff to kind of lighten the mood for myself. And I follow a lot of gamer stuff because I'm a gamer. I don't go in the comment section and act like a hateful asshole. I don't do that. I don't know why people feel the need to do that.
You go in your own comment section, and anybody who disagrees with you, you belittle, and then you boot them. And the funny thing is the evidence is actually in this video. She shows the evidence herself. It's really, really funny. I don't do that.
It's just small-minded. And I guess some people would come at me and say, well, then, Kay, you're going to lose followers. I don't care. I don't want them following me then. Go follow. Go be in your hateful echo chamber, your hate Amber Heard echo chamber. Go do it. I don't want to see it. I think it's trashy garbage behavior. You don't know her. I don't hate Johnny Depp.
I love how the person who thought, people, let me summarize this for you. Okay. Johnny Depp won the lawsuit against Amber Heard, okay, for defamation. And that's because he was able to present a case proving that she defamed him, proving that she was the abusive one in the relationship and not him. In a court of law, he proved this. Okay? Now, that doesn't matter. Why should it matter to someone whose response to being sued for defamation herself is to write the judge and say, stop harassing me? That's her response to her $10 million lawsuit. But I mean, what else are we to expect from someone like this except to root for this trash bag and to defend Amber Heard?
I mean, I may have had a moment there during the trial where I was mad at him for what he was doing and how he was manipulating people, but I ultimately don't hate him. I don't go around trolling Johnny Depp comments and posts and expressing my utter hatred and calling him all kinds of names.
No.
And then somebody came along all
No, you abuse your platform to do it. That's what you do. You do it on your YouTube channel and on your Facebook Live. That's what you do. It's the same thing, if not worse. Like
snarky, okay, we've moved on. Clearly not, because people are still talking about her. All the rag mags and gossip things and all this stuff. So clearly people are still talking about her and still hating on her. And I just think it's stupid. And Secticar, which post you talk about? You talk about the child one?
Of course you do.
Let me see if I can pull up the one I just made that has everybody so up in arms. And let me see if I can do it in a way that doesn't breach people's privacy. Yeah, all right, here we go. Okay, so essentially I said, I have enormous compassion for grocery store workers. The amount of inconsiderate and clueless people who allow their kids to screech, scream, hoot, holler, wail, and babble loudly is absolutely intolerable. Learn to shush your kids or leave them at home. It's totally inconsiderate to the public to let your goblins scream at the top of their lungs.
To let your goblins scream at the top of their lungs. Now, this is someone, I want you guys to keep in mind something here. This is someone who says that it's not okay to spank your kids because it is demeaning to them. Keep that in mind, folks, because you have to show your kids as much respect as you would show any adult, according to her past live streams and what she says. This is interesting.
Lungs in the toilet paper or spice aisles where decisions need to be made. For people like me with sensitive hearing and ADD, it's torturous. And before you come at me and tell me kids can't help it or their parents can't help it because they're neurodivergent.
I have major ADHD. And the sound of kids screaming or carrying on and, God forbid, having fun and being kids does not bother me. It does not peeve me. It does not make me go running to my social media platform and post about it and then go live about the post. No, kids don't make me do that. Kids are cool.
That's a crock. Kids respond to their parents' admonitions and cues. Shush them. Gently cover their mouth and shush them. Or distract them. Give them something to distract them. Or
treat them like idiots or humiliate them in public. But never spank them.
Leave them with someone else if you can't be bothered to control them. Now, apparently, people have themselves all worked up in a dither because I said gently cover their mouth. Amber, I have 4 kids. Amber Slusher. I have 4. So do you want me to describe to you do you want me to show you on the doll what I mean by gently cover their mouth? Here, I'll show you on the chicken. what I mean by gently cover their mouth.
Listen.
Okay, you see the chicken? Take your fingers and gently cover. Okay, here's your child. Gently cover their mouth. Gently cover their.
She put the chicken there, like, because she planned on having this production. She had every intention of putting on this production and using a rubber chicken as an example of a child.
For their lips with the tips of your fingers. I'm not telling you to suffocate your child. Amber, shut up. Go away. Can somebody please ban her? Amber.
Wow.
Pay attention. Class is in session now. Okay? You wouldn't ever leave your kids with anyone? What, you don't have any family? I see what I think. You're a fake profile. You're a fake person.
Wow.
I'm a joke. Get it out while you can, Amber, because you're about to be banned.
So how did you like that?
Loved it. I want to ride that horse again sometime. Ooh, yeah.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Do you see how crazy? Do you see the amounts of crazies that I have to deal with? You guys in the audience? Do you see the kind of people that I have to deal with?
Wow.
Okay.
Bro, have you ever seen?
Okay, so here's your screaming.
Parenting.
Here's your screaming goblin.
This is the most caring. Look what Amber's writing here. I'll read what Amber's writing. Oh, I will keep going. I will going to keep going. Not fake. You're the troll in all caps. Some don't have family. You're a joke. Now this is happening live because she's streaming on Facebook Live as she's streaming on YouTube here.
Take your fingers and gently cover their lips, just their lips. Yeah, do it now because you're not on Facebook. She's a Facebook lunatic. And here comes the typical, when people don't agree with you, no, I'm banning you because you're disruptive.
You
and you're adding nothing to the conversation. I hope she can no longer even see my live. But you see, this is the kind of people I have to deal with. Let's remove her comment. I ban people who are disruptive. And I also ban people I think aren't smart to understand my point of view. Okay. So here's your screaming goblin.
What?
Gently cover their lips.
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Them. I'm not saying to gag them. I'm not saying to take your full hand and cover their mouth and nose. I'm saying to give them a physical prompt by touching their lips and looking them in their eyes and saying, shush. It's time to shush. It's time to be quiet. Whether you're in a restaurant or you're in a grocery store or you're in church or even in your own home. If your child is screaming and if they're inconsolable, certainly remove them from the store. But if your child is just screeching loudly in a grocery store, and you consent, and you should have the wherewithal. See, this is what I'm talking about. Parents that have no insight. They're not reading the room. So if your child is in the grocery store and they're going, gently touch their lips and say, shh.
You realize how she just doesn't care that she sounds twice as obnoxious as any child yelling. You know why? Because she's an adult and they're a child. I mean, it's really that simple. Like, that's right there what it boils down to. She sounds 100 times worse because she's an adult and they're children. It's what children do.
Shush. Now is the time to shush. There is nothing wrong with that.
She's mad about like you hear how angry she is. I find that very fascinating because she is like fuming angry about something that happened at the grocery store who knows how many hours before with someone else's kid, someone that she'll never see again, never have to deal with again. And she is on fire with anger about this.
There is nothing abusive about that. There's nothing shocking about that. And there is nothing wrong with that. I'm not telling you to gag them. I'm not telling you to cover their mouth and nose and suffocate them. I'm telling you to give them a physical prompt.
that's physically disciplining your child, which you're always saying no one should ever do, right? You're saying to physically discipline your child is what you're saying right now, which is what you're always telling people that they're pieces of shit if they do, right? Fair enough. I mean, if that makes them pieces of shit, but why? My question is why, if that makes people a piece of shit and you're telling people to do that now because you got triggered at the grocery store? Yes, Karen, triggered. What does that make you? I mean, if those are piece of shit parents, what does that make you?
When my toddlers would act up, oftentimes I would just I would touch their shoulder. Okay, I'm not saying to pinch them. I'm not saying to hurt them. Physical prompts, touch their leg, touch their arm, touch their shoulder. Physical prompts work. Oftentimes, if your child is inconsolable and they're out of control and they're screaming and crying because you're not letting them have that, touch their leg, touch their arm, touch their shoulder.
I mean, of course. No, I mean, who the fuck doesn't do that? That's something we as people in society do. We want to get somebody's attention. We tap them on the shoulder. We go, hey, you know what I mean? That's it. It's hey. Okay. Like, just because a parent chooses not to do that to their kid, like, that's not your business. And just because you feel, well, you're being disturbed because you're out in public, well, guess what? You're out in public. What are you, a fucking agoraphobe? Shit happens when you're out in public. Kids being kids happens when you're out in public. Now, I understand if there's gunshots, you know, okay, that's something to get upset about. But a kid screaming because they're a kid when you don't have even the slightest fucking clue as to why the kid is screaming, how much pain they're in, etc., etc. You don't have the slightest fucking clue as to the circumstances as why they felt the need to bring the child to the store with them. You don't have any fucking clue. I mean,
physical prompts work. Oftentimes, if your child is inconsolable and they're out of control and they're screaming and crying because you're not letting them have that toy and there's no end in sight, just remove them. Take them away from the situation and do your shopping later. Or if you know that your child has a history of not knowing how to behave themselves in public, even if they're 2, find a way around it. Stop subjecting the rest of society to your child's mouth. That is all I'm saying. My goodness, some of you who lost your mind over my post, do you never shush them at home? Do you just like run around screaming at the top of their lungs? And if your kid is whining and
like, she has to know she's a Karen. She has to know that she like lives up to the name, like embodies it. You know what I mean? Like, I've never heard anybody Karen this much. I've done Karen streams with just fucking, you know, a cavalcade of strangers who got caught on video Karening, and none of them were as bad as this. None of them were as bad as this. This is the most Karening I've ever seen in my fucking life.
Loudly crying and pitching a temper tantrum, you're telling me you don't shush them at home? Because of course I'm not. Of course I'm opposed to corporal punishment. I'm opposed to any kinds of physical discipline. But taking your fingertips and gently giving a physical prompt because you're wanting that child to pay attention to what they're doing with their mouth. If they're
riddle me this, Batman. What happens if you give this child this physical prompt that you're suggesting to do, right? You give your child this physical prompt and say, hey, could you please shush, you little goblin? And then the little goblin goes, you know what? Fuck you. What do you do then? And then they just keep screaming. What do you do? Because you got other kids at home that are hungry. You know what I mean? You got other kids at home that are hungry, and you got to get food right now. Taking them out of the store, not really an option. Not a viable option considering your circumstances. What do you do when that kid just tells you, fuck you? My kids would never do that. Well, you don't know what these kids are like. You don't know if they have Asperger's or Tourette's. You don't fucking know what their situation is.
They're hooting and hollering. And see, this is the problem. A lot of parents think it's cute when their kids sit in Walmart and go, wah, 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 wah. It's not cute. It's annoying to the rest of us.
You know what actually happens?
It's not necessary.
The kid is getting on the parent's nerves too. But usually the parent knows how to deal with the kid. Might be that she lets it go and then she deals with it at home. You don't know. You're nobody to dictate how anybody disciplines their child. But the thing is, though, if they're, I mean, you have no idea what. Hold on. Just let me, because.
It's your job as the parent to to do something, to quiet them down. And in my opinion, a gentle physical prompt works in some cases with some kids.
Okay, but what if it doesn't? See, that's what I'm trying to understand. What if it doesn't? Because she's always talking about my kids are this, my kids are that, like as if she honestly believes that everybody should be living up to her standards, no matter what their circumstances, no matter what their upbringing is, no matter what their anything is. You know, for some reason, they all got to be like her kids. And I don't know what it was like growing up as a kid with Kay as my mom. I don't fucking have any idea what it's like to have Karen, that person, raising me. My mom wasn't like that. My mom didn't make these kind of noises. You know what I mean? Like, I can't even imagine what it's like growing up in a household with this.
Kid might not respond to you gently covering their mouth and saying, shh. But what are you doing when you gently, this is your kid. Okay, you stop and you cover their mouth. You're drawing their attention to the fact that their mouth is the problem.
People live
You're getting
with
their
that.
attention. It's not for shock value. It's to get their attention to what is the problem. Their mouth is the problem.
People live with that.
Furthermore, I witnessed somebody today. Let's leave the chicken out in case more chickens come along. I witnessed somebody today in Walmart take a toy from her daughter, little 18-month-old she looked to be, 18 to 20-month-old. She took the toy and then held it over her in the checkout aisle. The mom was bored, so she took the toy and held it over the little baby. And the little baby had this look on her face like, why are you doing that? And then she looked up at the toy and started crying. And the mom stood there and held it over her while she cried.
And what does that have to do with what you're talking about?
Who does that? Who deliberately causes their child to cry in Walmart?
Are you saying that's what happened?
Exactly, Ashley.
Because
exactly.
That's
but don't nobody tell these people that they can't spank and smack their kids. But
you see what I'm saying? She knows. This is the pattern of thinking, because if anybody, including Karen, if her plan is to go over this post, what she's going to start the story off with is how the story started. Simple. Patricia Sell, member for 6 month BHB. If you give me more money, I'm psychic. Grimace. Thank you. Thank you. If this was a true story, what she's talking about now is the baby is the mother holding a toy over the child, and this is why the child was crying. Right? So what's the point here? Because if that's the case, then I have 2 points to make. The first one being, why didn't you start the story off with the beginning of the story? Why didn't you already have your actions justified as far as your rant, your Karen's fit that you had right here? Second, why, if what I don't understand is if this mother is the one causing the child to cry, okay, why are you trying to justify that mother physically prompting her child to stop crying? Who's the problem here? You know what I mean? Because what you're talking about, you're not bothered by the parent teasing the child, because that just comes up right now. You're bothered by the fact that the child is making noise, relentlessly making noise. Zam, member for a month. Logic, hey, Glare, mods in chat. Thank you so much. Welcome to Logic. I mean, she's so full of herself that she doesn't realize how much she contradicts herself. It's fascinating.
But I can't say to gently cover their mouth and give a child a physical prompt. I raised twin boys. When they were toddlers, they did as toddlers do. When they were about 3-4 years old, they were helping in the garden with grandma, okay? And Ethan had a spade, okay? And Gordy and Ethan had some tiff over the spade. It was Gordy. And Gordy had the spade in his hand, and he spun in a circle with it. He like threw his arm out in a little temper tantrum and went, and like spun in a circle, and the tip of the spade went whoop, right across the bridge of Ethan's nose and split his brow open, okay? Right at the top of the nose there. Split it, clear open. And my dad got the Gorilla Glue and glued it back together. I didn't spank Gordon. I didn't smack Gordon. I didn't yell at him. I didn't scream at him. I physically prompted him to stop. Hi, Seth. I physically prompted him to stop. I grabbed his arm. Your arm is the problem. What you're doing is like, he didn't mean to do it. He was just.
Okay, but why was your kid running wild, fucking throwing spades and stabbing people in the fucking bridge of the nose with it? You know what I mean? Like you gotta like be consistent here, because otherwise you're just complaining. Because if you're complaining about the fact that this child is not know how to behave, right? You're saying there are things that you can do to prevent the child from behaving a certain way, right? You're all about prevention, right? If we find Letitia Stout not guilty by reason of insanity, then we have an opportunity to learn, right? I mean, so
You need to shut the fuck up.
He's just a baby. So I physically grabbed his arm. I took the spade away from him and I held onto his arm, and I held him and said, essentially, calm down. You need to calm down. And then he was upset because he hurt his brother. In the situation, my dad thankfully handled.
That's what I mean is like, well, I mean, if the whole point is to like keep your kids and prevent things, you know, from happening, because if we find Letitia Stout not guilty, well, then we have the chance to prevent more murders like that one. But I mean, why wasn't that prevented in the first place? Why did that happen? If you're such a perfect fucking parent and you know exactly how it is that you should discipline kids, why is one son stabbing the other in the fucking face? And then you're sitting here talking about how you handled it. You know, like, kids are kids, man. You know, what do you think, that the lady with the screaming kid is just going to let her one kid stab the other kid in the face with a spade and just let it go because she lets the kid scream in the store? Like, how is that even comparable? How's that even a comparable story? I don't understand why you're you held your kid, told him to calm down. Any parent would do that. What do you want, an award? Like, any fucking parent would do that. Like, why how is the woman letting her kid scream? You think she's just gonna let that happen? Kid stabs the other kid. They're just boys. It's not gonna happen. Like, she's gonna stop it. And if one of them's hurt, she's gonna most likely coddle them, nurse them back to health. I mean, that's what moms do.
He handled it by gorilla gluing the cuts shut. And everybody moved on with their day. It's called physical prompting. There were times when my boys would get rambunctious and they didn't want to sit during speech class. I physically prompted them. I would grab them and I would sit with them and I would hold them in a sitting position, physically cueing them that sitting was what I expected of them.
Why did you have to do that? If they're such good boys and they always listen to their mom, why the fuck are you, dude? All I had to do, straight up, when my kids were small, dude, right? I got my stepdaughter who's 6 years older than my son. Okay. And I would just have to tell my stepdaughter, just, hey, sit down, don't do nothing, you know? And if my son was up running around as a toddler, I just give him the look, yo, you know, and then he would just giggle and then run and sit down. I mean, why are your kids freaking out? And why are you like shitting on other parents who have kids who are yelling in a public place and just being kids when you're sitting here describing stories where your kids don't know how to behave? What? That shit makes no sense.
This isn't outrageous. So if you expect your child to shush, to take it down a notch and be quiet, there is nothing wrong with physically covering their lips.
Yeah.
This isn't abusive.
It's
demeaning. A physical prompt. I'm trying to think of another example.
It is mentally abusive. Straight up. It is mentally abusive. You are attacking that child's self-esteem by doing that. You are attacking that child's ability to self-respect by doing that. Because the best thing for a parent to do in any situation is to treat their child like you would want them to treat other human beings. I'm not going to put my hands over your mouth. I wouldn't expect anybody else to do that shit. That's what happens. Like, dude, like your kid is dating a fucking asshole and then that asshole puts their finger over or shushes your kid. You're going to be like, dude, when did I ever shush you? Don't take that shit. What are you talking about? I don't shush you. When did you start being shushed? Doesn't matter if it's a boy or a girl. You know what I mean? Like, that's just basic self-respect.
Example of when you got a child that's kicking. You know, toddlers like to kick. You know, toddlers like to sit in the back seat and throw a little temper tantrum and kick and swing their legs and kick the back. You turn around. I know, right? Actually, you turn around and you touch their leg. You hold their leg. I would reach my hand back and grab their ankle and hold their leg still and say, stop kicking your leg. You're kicking my seat. You're distracting me from driving. Stop kicking your leg. It's called a physical prompt.
Dude,
There's nothing wrong with telling your child to shush. I don't understand why some parents.
All I've ever had to do, like when my kids were little, was just, hey, stop kicking the seat, please. Thank you. That's it. That's it. I don't know, man.
Parents think the minute they get into a Walmart or a Meijer or a Kroger, it's just the gloves are off and their kid can do whatever they want. It's a big, wide open space, I guess, because it has big, high ceilings. So who cares if my kid sits there and babbles loudly and screeches like a banshee?
Jesus,
would you let your child do that during church service while the pastor's talking? No, you wouldn't. You would either remove them or you would shush them. Same thing for a child that's slightly older. If you're sitting somewhere in a public place and that child is talking loudly to the point where you notice people are turning and looking at you, there's nothing wrong with telling your child to shush it down. My post was created out of sheer frustration.
That's such a Karen thing to say,
too. Go and get groceries. And
that's the most Karen shit to say, too. Shush it down. If you don't shush it down, I'm going to put you on your death. Wow.
And having to navigate the store because in every single aisle is some kid, some out of control kid. And I don't know what's happened after COVID. People have just lost their minds. And it's the same with airplanes. And I get it that on airplanes, sometimes it cannot be helped. But that's on.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Like, how does COVID have anything to do with kids just being kids? COVID's got nothing to do with anything. When COVID all of a sudden like got airborne and then kids just started like screaming in public, that's what happened. That's what happened. Oh shit. That kid over there is crying. That kid over there is, oh man, that's the second one I've seen. Must have been that COVID. God, she's so fucking dumb, bro.
It's on you, isn't it? To make plans for that circumstance. If your child, bring something to help them with their ears. Do what you can, which is within the physical realm of possibility. But we all have been on flights where we've seen parents just oblivious. They just sit there like, oh, well, if I have to. This is the attitude I think some parents have. They have the attitude that if they have to listen to it in their home, then you should too. You should just have to listen to it at Walmart. You should just have to listen to it at the restaurant. You should just have to listen to it wherever.
No, that's not it at all. Like, she literally thinks that it's an attack. Listen to that shit again. Like, this is the funniest shit I've ever seen, dude.
Because they have the attitude that if they sit there like, oh, well, if I have to. This is the attitude I think some parents have.
She literally thinks that a kid crying in public is a passive aggressive attack at her. Listen.
They have the attitude that if they have to listen to it in their home, then you should too. You should just have to listen to it at Walmart. You should just have to listen to it at the restaurant. You should just have to listen to it wherever because they have to deal with their loudmouth kid means you should have to. Well, I can't control my kid. My kid is neurodivergent. So I just have no control. My kid is so neurodivergent. He doesn't understand what shush means. He can't be shushed. Yes, he can. You can at least try because people take note if you're trying and people take note if you're not trying. And I think the people that got their backs up about my Facebook post are the people that don't try. And I don't want to hear that you don't have options. If you're going to expect me to get delivery, which number one, I don't have the extra money for, and number two, it's always been unreliable. I go and I do the delivery thing and I end up getting brown bananas or apples I wouldn't have chosen. So why should I have to sacrifice because you can't quiet your kid? If your kid cannot tolerate being out in public without losing their shit and screaming and crying, make alternative plans.
So you know what? Fucking, I go out in public and there's a screaming kid and I can't deal with it. There is the option to get delivery, but I don't have the extra money to get food delivery to solve this problem. So fuck it. I know how I'm going to solve it. I'm going to bitch. I'm gonna get on social media and write a post, and then that'll change things. And if that doesn't change things, I'm gonna read my post and bitch and moan as I'm reading the post and the comments that come with it. And that will solve the problem.
Leave them with grandma, leave them with your husband, leave them with your sister. Leave them with an older sibling. Find something or do as I say and shush them.
Do as I say.
A lot of people don't even try. I'm observant. I'm hyper observant, especially when I'm annoyed. So I'm looking at what the parent is doing. And these parents, 9 out of 10, are just, ho-hum, who cares? If I have to hear it, so do you. They're neurodivergent. They can't handle it. So you should just have compassion. They don't even try. They don't even try. That's what upsets me. Sometimes I make these posts and I think, well, nobody's going to care.
Like,
this is just me venting. Somebody gave me an idea a while ago. They said, you should just start monetizing.
She might as well be complaining about rainy days. Children yelling and screaming in public. You might as well be complaining about a rainy day. I mean, they happen. It's part of life. It's part of existence There's nothing that's ever like. There's never. You're not. You're not pushing for this social justice. This. You're not like this effort that you're making right now is the most futile shit in the world. It's like trying to push the rain back up into the sky. What I suggest you do, Karen, is get an umbrella, because you can't push the rain back up into the sky. There are these children that are a thing, have been since the beginning of time, by the way. They were here before we were. Think about that. Children were here first, before adults. So, and here's the thing is, and I've heard her make this point in the past too, which I find really funny that she's not doing that now. It's really convenient that she doesn't bring up this point. And that point is something that I actually agree with her 100% on. Kids, they never asked to be put on this planet. They never asked to be here. You know what I mean? Now, I understand that it's our responsibility as parents to teach our kids not to grow up to be assholes. I understand that. I'm all for that. But what I'm saying, though, is there are kids that cry. It's what kids do. You're not going to change that. You know? And a child at that age doesn't know what to fucking do. As far as they know, they've never been here before. They're doing the best they can. You know? They're adjusting to their extremely large surroundings that they can't seem to take a total grasp on. And there's this being that's nurturing to them. So sometimes kids, they yell at this being that is assigned to them by life to nurture them. And the way that they do that, because they can't talk yet, is they scream, they yell. Sometimes a kid's too young to talk. They don't know what's wrong with them, but they're in pain somehow. They want mom's help. Or sometimes a kid just wants a toy because they don't know yet and they're not old enough to process that they're not entitled to this toy. Because children are allowed to feel entitled until they are taught to have gratitude. That takes time. That takes years of development and growth in a child to be able to process this and make it a habit for themselves. So children are naturally entitled. It is the way that it is. It has been this way since the beginning of time. It will be this way until the end of it. Guaranteed. What the fuck are you complaining about? What is the point of your complaining? What do you expect to accomplish with your complaining about this issue that has always been a thing and will always be a thing? I am dying to know.
Monetizing your feelings. I said, all right, I'll just start monetizing my feelings. I'll start monetizing how I feel and see if it resonates. And I literally left Walmart and my fingers were shaking. It's gotten to the point, my nerves have gotten to the point. Somebody suggested these
What does that say about somebody?
And I said, can you order? He said, sure.
What does that say about somebody who's just fucking just so triggered and set the fuck off by the innocence of children? Think about that for a second. What kind of person, what kind of soul is this triggered simply by the innocence of children? The natural innocence of children. She's literally shaking, Ken.
Sure. My husband wears hearing aids. My husband's one of the lucky few. He can just turn his hearing aids off. My husband is clinically deaf, so he has to wear a double hearing aid. He can just turn them off, and he hears nothing. I can hear a mouse fart 5 miles down the road. I'm not even lying. I hear everything. I have supersonic hearing and supersonic smell. My vision's going, but my hearing, unfortunately, is not. I hear everything. And
Dude, I'm telling you, man. I am telling you, dude. Oh my God.
Fucking shoot.
Because listen, I just, it's confirmed. The secret to that marriage has to be a hearing impairment. I'm not saying that to rag on the guy. That sucks. You know what I'm saying? Like he can't hear. It sucks. But to be married to her, that's the blessing in disguise. Dude, it's even depicted in a movie. This is a major spoiler alert. Okay, fair warning. This is a major spoiler alert. If you haven't seen this movie by now, that's your own goddamn fault. But there's the ending to this movie called Revolutionary Road. Revolutionary Road. DiCaprio, Winslet. Something happens with them. I won't give all that away, but there's these nosy neighbors, and the wife is such a busybody. She's had this long marriage with her husband, and then she's like, shame what happened to that couple. They seem like such a sweet couple. Oh man, I wonder what kept us together all these years. And she just goes on and keeps talking, and then you see the zoom in to the dude's hearing aid in his ear and the wire going to the receiver thing, and you see him just turning the volume down and the sound going away from her voice. That's the only logical explanation that I can think of, that somebody, a grown adult who doesn't have to, lives with that amount of complaining. It's the only explanation that I can think of. I mean, it's the only thing logical. It really is.
And it's my nerves. It rattles my nerves. And I'm trying to not drink as much because it makes me feel so lousy the next day. I don't really want to take anything because I don't like being dependent on medication. So, and nothing jives well with me anyway. So I get out of Walmart after all of these screaming brats, and my fingers are shaking, and I'm shaking. It literally takes me hours to come down from the stress of it all. That's how bad it's gotten, especially going into Walmart. There's no windows in there. It's horrible lighting. And then to add insult to injury, they play the most god-awful country music. So you've got screaming kids, awful country music, no windows, horrible lights that suck the life out of you. The prices are through the roof, which will stress anyone out. And if that's not bad enough, Walmart likes to change everything around every 3 months. So where the dog food once was, now there's laundry detergent. And so now I have to weave and work my way through screaming kids, horrible country music, terrible lighting, no windows, and try to find where they moved the dog food. Because I've got no idea where they moved it. Lord only knows where they moved it.
So now we're just complaining.
And then when I do find it, they've got it all ass backwards.
So now we're just complaining about grocery stores in general now? We're just complaining about the grocery store. Cool.
Just when I get it down. Just when I know where things are.
Dude, we're 25 minutes into an hour and a half live stream here that is supposed to be about Letitia Stout. It says Letitia Stout trial, the why. So far, we haven't heard word fucking one.
There's got to be some reason they do that. And I don't work for Walmart corporate, so I don't know why. But they're not the only store that does that. But there has to be some manipulative reason that they're doing that. So, but by the end of it all, after an hour of it all, I'm ready to check myself into the nearest insane asylum. Or the nearest bar. Load me up. Give me a strand of hands on the rocks. Make it a double. And a coffee, because I need the caffeine too.
What are you?
And so I make this post. Just for sheer mind venting. And like, okay, maybe it'll resonate with someone, maybe it won't. And out come the outraged ninnies. And it's all women. All of them, women. And I know that I'm not wrong.
She hates women.
I'm shocked to see the people.
She's like BHB. She hates women. It's really, really interesting. I wonder, like, to be like I wonder if there's some sort of psychological explanation for that. Because I'm just saying, because I don't know, and I'm not even making a joke right now. I wonder if there's a psychological explanation for somebody who has these narcissistic personality or disorders that they clearly seem to have. I can't diagnose them, but they definitely have the traits. And is there something, in that diagnosis where people like them typically hate, they're heterosexual, but hate people of their own gender. I don't know if that's the case, but I wonder if that's a thing. I would have to ask a licensed mental health professional. As a matter of fact, Ken's counseling couch was in here. I'd love to ask him if that's a thing. I don't know if it's a thing. It just seems weird that the both of them are so similar, and they both seem to hate women. You know?
Upset at me suggesting that you gently cover your child's mouth.
I mean, because they're mothers. They're loving mothers. Of course, they're upset about hearing that.
Enough of that. Let's get back to another triggering topic.
See, like, she's trying to be triggering. You see this?
Ashley Poirier, sorry, I had you on the screen.
Like, this is her tactic is to post a picture of Letitia with Gannon, which is supposed to imply to you that she's
Christine. I have a funny story about that, actually.
Gannon.
I don't handle those very well. I know people are going to find this hard to believe. I'm a lightweight. I really kind of am a lightweight. I don't handle things very well. As some of you know, I've been battling depression, and I'm like everybody else. I've probably gone back and forth with it for a number of years. My doctor has tried a lot of different things with me, and I can't take SSRIs. They give me an
See, you're not doing anything that the doctor is saying, most likely, because I struggle with depression. But you know what I do? I exercise. I strongly limit my drinking. I had scotch for the first time Wednesday night. I had scotch, and that was the first time since New Year's that I drank. And I'm just, yeah, like, and when I drank, I was just kind of like, man, I feel so much better not doing that. And I'm not saying like I quit. I'm sure I'll be in a social situation at some point and then I'll drink, but like doing it just out of sheer boredom is for the fucking birds, man. You know, like going and exercising, way better. Like, yeah, I mean, I know what depression's like. I know what it's like, and I don't suffer from it. I can honestly say that I do not suffer from it. I struggle with it. It's always a struggle. There's no denying that. That's something that just doesn't go away. It's either something that you manage or something that manages you. That's just how depression works, period. So, and it's yeah, it's easy. It's easy once you get your little routine on what you do. And you don't even have to necessarily stick to the routine. Like breaking the routine is not going to stress, at least it doesn't stress me out. But, you know, I'm in the habit of just simply managing my shit. And gummies actually help. And here she was saying, oh, that's not part of it. I'm a lightweight, can't handle that. Just eat a piece of one or something, man. Because let me tell you,
I feel like a slice of butter melting on top of a big old pile of flapjacks. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Intense headache in the back of my head. I don't know why, but like the very back of my, like intense back of my head. So there's no hope for me there. I can't take any SSRIs. I've tried them all. The most recent one being like what's supposed to be like the newest, mildest. And it immediately gave me the brain fog and the pain in the back of my head. I said, I can't do this. I've tried various other things. They don't work for me.
She's literally been complaining since the start of this stream. She's just been just full on Karen without stopping, just coasting Karen, just on a Karen coast.
I tend to find great relief in gaming, so I do that. But the hiccup with that is that can be very addicting, and it can be a way to avoid. And I am a chronic procrastinator and avoider. I tend to avoid I do tend to procrastinate, and gaming is probably one of my many Achilles heels because I can go in that world and the world of fantasy, and I can avoid. But it does calm my nerves, so it is somewhere that I do tend to go when I get overly stimulated and stressed out. And anyway, all right, while I sip my Red Bull, I'm going to go into my thoughts. I have a little monologue written for you guys, and I have a couple of articles I want to read.
She has a monologue written, guys.
And so here we go. Each case is an entity unto itself. So I try to avoid comparing cases whenever possible.
Way healthier.
But I would say this case, the Letitia Stout, Gannon Stout case, definitely fits in the category of bizarre, inexplicable eruption of domestic/family violence. To say Letitia's behavior from day one has been confusing and baffling is an understatement. An innocent child is dead, and a woman who seemingly had everything going for her and seemingly was trying to do the right thing has destroyed her life and countless lives around her. Her defense team seemingly believed she was not in her right mind during at least the senseless overkill of Gannon. And
okay, let me explain something right there. That's simply not true. If you really think that her defense team, the way that they've handled this trial so far, if you think that that her defense team actually believes that she's innocent, you're blind and actually insane. I mean, yeah.
Where do you get these fucking idiots, huh? Where do you get them?
And they had one witness to put forward their theory and to try to convince a jury to spare her a life in prison without parole. Now, Dr. Dorothy Otnow-Lewis is the defense's expert. She is renowned. She's well respected. And most importantly, she has devoted her life to researching the why, in all caps, the why. That's not something many people can say. This desire to understand the why was born in the mind of a little Jewish girl who wanted desperately to understand why Hitler committed genocide on his own people and on her people. For her to give of herself to this case speaks volumes to me. The prosecution's experts, by contrast, seem to...
So what it seems like we're listening to here, folks, is going to be just a big old fucking ass-licking fluff job of Dr. Dorothy Lewis from Canceled Karen here. So this should just be fucking fantastic.
Seem to me to just be cogs in the wheel of the system. They're not radical, groundbreaking research. Tennis. David Solomon. Expert witnesses are key in the courtroom, as more complicated disputes need clear explanation to a jury. But there's little agreement on what makes a great witness. GLG Law's David Solomon gives 4 characteristics to look for: clear communication, coachability, confidence, and candor. Ask a dozen lawyers what makes a dream expert witness, and you'll get 12 different answers. Some dislike using first-time experts without testifying experience. Others prefer the lack of a record to attack. Many avoid academics, fearing an ivory tower problem. Others prefer the professorial approach to teaching a finder of fact about a difficult subject. Virtually all litigators agree that experts must be credible and knowledgeable in their area of specialty, and that a great expert is an essential element to obtaining a favorable resolution in complex litigation. But beyond the obvious, there's little consensus on what constitutes a must-have. That's a challenge for attorneys because experts have never been more important than today, as more disputes than ever now rely on understanding complicated subjects, such as the nuance of an intricate financial transaction or how a particular technology is distinct from another.
Well, here's the thing about the experts is there was a bunch of experts that testified for the state that says that she's fucking guilty as fuck. So I agree with you. We need experts, but what we need are experts that know what the fuck they're talking about and don't fall apart on the stand.
In a litigation environment where picking the right expert is more important than ever, a miss can mean catastrophe. How does a litigator identify the must-have traits in an expert? And how can lawyers test potential experts for these characteristics, especially during limited preliminary conversations? A good place to start with is the 4 C's. A clear communicator. As experienced as an expert may be, he or she must be able to transfer deep subject matter knowledge from his or her mind to that of the finder of fact. Knowing the inner workings of an intricate subject does not always mean one can explain it equally well to the uninitiated or lay. As technical specialties become more and more complex, selecting a clear and concise communicator becomes more and more important. The best experts can speak technically yet eloquently, not only to industry peers, but to someone who has no basis of knowledge in the subject matter.
Fucking idiot.
Coachability. Experts, by definition, are often the smartest people in the room, and they're frequently in a position of authority over how things around them are conducted. But litigation is a team sport. Experts who work well with others in a matrix environment and under pressure are a godsend to a litigation team. An expert that sees him or herself as the sun around which the rest of the case orbits can quickly become an obstacle to be carefully negotiated, or worse, a potential liability. Whether experts have testified hundreds of times or never, a litigator will almost certainly need to give them feedback and counsel about how to come across more effectively and prepare thoroughly. The expert worth her salt embraces working on a team and incorporating constructive suggestions to maximize performance and impact. Confidence. While experts might have mastered a particular subject matter, their confident, but not overly so, delivery of the information is paramount. Though one may expect that a confident manner goes hand in hand with clear communication, that is not always the case. Sometimes a clear communicator may come across knowledgeable, but not particularly confident, or just as problematically, excessively so. The finder of fact, or the jury, must not only find experts to be credible, but also feel that in an adversarial proceeding, where another well-credentialed expert will be refuting many points they make, experts come across as having mastery of the subject while believing in both their conclusions and themselves. Candor. Last but not least, candor and transparency are underrated as character traits of a successful expert. Good experts can tell you what they know and advocate forcefully for a position. A great expert will be clear on not only what he or she knows, but also assess the relative merits of a position, opinion, or view in a fair and balanced manner. Now, with that in mind, I kind of want to go into Dorothy a little bit. I'm not going to go too deeply into what she said for a number of reasons. Chiefly is that I couldn't hear a lot of what she was saying, even though I have great hearing. The audio, even from the courtroom,
You're going to start off with that lame excuse?
During her time on the stand was terrible. She wasn't in front of the mic, whereas the prosecution's experts were always seated directly in front of the mic, had the microphone up to their mouths, and they were very loud and clear. We unfortunately, whether it was by design or by accident, I don't know, we didn't have that with Dorothy. Much of the time she was off mic, and we who were listening
Okay, so let me get this straight. It was by design that Dorothy showed up in a walker or a wheelchair. And so it was like the court's designed for her to do that so that they would have to sit her for her comfort and her viewing, for the best possible viewing that she would have of the evidence. She had to sit on the floor where a mic was not set up. It was not logistically planned for a mic to be in the area where her wheelchair would be able to sit. So you're telling me that it was by design for her to show up in a wheelchair, that the prosecution was like, listen, we don't have a problem with your witness defense. We don't have a problem with her testifying, but she's going to have to roll up here in a wheelchair. Either that or a walker, or she doesn't testify. No. What are you talking about? Why would you even entertain that by design they had her sitting in the best possible spot for her to be able to review the evidence in open court and give her expert testimony on?
Stream, because we cannot be there in Colorado Springs, did not really have the benefit of hearing everything she said. And I became exasperated because if I cannot hear what she's saying clearly and succinctly, I'm not going to want to continue to listen because I don't want to hear wrongly. So it became very frustrating for me. So clear communicator, kind of right out the door in terms of the audio. We didn't hear her on mic. I can only hope the jury heard her better. Coachability. I think most people can agree that Letitia's lawyers really didn't do the best job that they could do in terms of coaching her. Now, whether that is because she's not an easily coachable expert witness or because they didn't.
What do you mean that they didn't do a good job of coaching her? They didn't do a good job of covering up the fact that they coached her poorly. They didn't do a good job at that because they're on video attending the evaluation to determine if Letitia is sane or not, or was sane or not during the time of Gannon's murder. Now, in order to get an accurate assessment of that, especially in such a short period of time, one would probably assume, one with common sense would assume that you wouldn't want anyone else in the room to distract you or her from making any progress. But we watched her attorney sitting in the room during Dr. Lewis's evaluation with not just him there and interfering in the evaluation, which has to be totally unethical, but also we saw her brother, or sorry, not her brother, her son, who from what I understand was smoking up some fucking ganja in the hallway, in the stairwell, I mean. Like, it's just, yeah, great expert witness. Great expert witness there. I mean, she shows up late every time, every day, and then you write a fucking monologue with a bunch of fucking word salad that you probably plagiarized off of some fucking psychological review book or some peer review book or magazine.
Work with her well enough or handle her well enough. I really don't know. I can't make an opinion about that because I don't know. I did not see behind the scenes, but certainly I think everybody can agree that she was not coached very well. The defense direct of her when she took the stand was surprisingly short. I remember a couple days ago when the defense questioned her, and then they
see, I'm not going to blame the defense for that. I'm going to blame her for that, because I'm sure that the defense told her to show up on time. I'm sure that the defense said, hey, we really need this to go well because this is literally our only defense. And you are the one thing that's going to bring this home. I guarantee you they did that. The problem is that she showed that she didn't care. She didn't care enough to do the actual research on the case and learn all the facts of the case, even though she had plenty of time to prep for it. She could have gotten an EEG done, even requested it, and then withdrew the request via email and couldn't even answer a yes or no question when they asked her if it was her who sent the email. When it was her, by the way. Sharon Lewis, keeping it real really matters. Thank you. Member for 5 months. Welcome to Logic. So, how is that the defense's fault? See, I'm of the opinion. Hold on. I had to sneeze. I'm of the opinion that the defense is doing everything that they can. Doing what they can with what they have to work with. The evidence is overwhelming against Letitia Stout. All of the evidence is completely overwhelming. This is a slam dunk, unless you throw the insanity plea in there. But otherwise, this is a slam fucking dunk. They tracked her not only with cell phone texts, suspicious cell phone texts. I mean, they tracked her fucking GPS. She ran from the cops. I mean, I could go on and on and on. After she's caught, she attacks a deputy and tries to escape. I mean, I could go on and on and on and on about what makes this woman look fucking guilty as sin. More exists that makes her guilty than doesn't. It's crazy.
And they said, that's it. I was like, wait a minute, what? What? You know, it was almost like not having sex to completion, if I can, for lack of a better analogy. I was sitting there going, wait a minute, what? And then the prosecution took over with their cross of her. And unfortunately, that went on for nearly 2 full days, most of which she wasn't on the mic. And it wasn't the prosecution's job to coach her. It was the defense's turn to coach her. So right out the window, that C. Right out the gate, that C goes out the window. In terms of confidence, I think Dorothy is certainly incredibly confident. This is an 85-year-old woman who has spent nearly 60 years doing very difficult research.
And building...
has catapulted
spent her whole career building a shitty reputation for cheap thrills. That's exactly what Dr. Dorothy Lewis's legacy is. This is a woman who got a hell of an education just to piss it away on cheap thrills because they turn a buck. cheap thrills of watching serial killers morph into different people on camera. That's all she is. It's all she's proven to be in 60 years. That's an absolute fact.
Her to the very top of her field in terms of that research. She's not just a treating clinician. She's not just some schmuck who works at the jail, some schmuck psychiatrist. This is a highly regarded and highly esteemed woman who has done the difficult work of research. That's very different than just being a clinician within the system. It's a completely different animal. So yes, she certainly has the confidence, and she certainly had candor. She certainly is, in my opinion. I don't understand what people are saying in terms of that she wasn't well spoken. What I could hear of her, at least in the beginning, before she was off mic, I thought she was very candid, and I thought she did a very good job of speaking to the what this article refers to as the uninitiated or the lay person, which most of the people on the jury are. I thought that she did a great job in terms of connecting with the jury, at least from what I saw in the beginning when she was on mic. And the next thing I want to read to you is an article about dissociation,
Jesus,
because
Karen.
I think that there's still seems to be, and look, I don't claim to be an expert on this. I would only say that I'm trying to understand because of Dorothy. So I'm doing what I can as the uninitiated or the lay. I'm trying to
this is why we say you're a piece of shit. Because if you're trying to justify, I mean, okay, you're saying that you want to learn from Dr. Dorothy Lewis. But why does it have to be at the what does Letitia being found insane or and not guilty by reason of insanity, what good does that, how does that help you understand her more? Why not just read her shit, read her books? You know what I mean? Like, why does it have to be at the cost of justice to an 11-year-old boy who you yourself said was innocent? See, that's what I don't understand. I mean, you're sitting here and you're saying, well, I just want to understand her better. But why does this trial have to go in the direction of traumatizing this family further for you to learn something? What does that say about you?
Gobble up and familiarize myself with this, because yes, I took Psych 1 and Psych 2, but you're talking about 30 years ago when I went to college. It's been a long time since I took psychology. However fascinated I am with psychology and psychiatry, it's been many, many years. I remember dissociation being talked about even back then in the late 90s, but they have come a long way now. And I'm doing what I can in terms of not what I see a lot of other people doing, which is just digging their heels in because it's Letitia, because it's a defendant that is so hated and so despised. And
no, it's because there's overwhelming evidence to prove that she's a vicious fucking piece of shit. That's all. It's not because she's just Letitia. It's because there is overwhelming evidence that this boy was just trying to show her affection and respect and please her and make her happy. And she hated him for it because she hated that he belonged to Landon. She hated Gannon because he was a product of the ex who she couldn't stand. That's the motive. It's a very simple motive. It's not uncommon. And it's perfectly in line with all of her other behavior that we've seen so much evidence of. What do you think has been going on this entire fucking trial? You act like Dr. Lewis came up and then just proved everything. You act like you completely forgot how a trial works, because I remember Critical K at least having some understanding of that. But it's funny because she also has the track record of being logical when it's going her way. But again, here she's just using a bunch of word salad, and all it does is prove that canceled Karen is somebody who is a shitty person at heart and has to somehow troll the whole world by trying to sound smart as she hates on, disrespects a victim, and praises a perpetrator and makes excuses for a perpetrator. And that's the only thing, is because she just likes to get a rise out of people so that she has an excuse to belittle them. And she uses YouTube to do it. When you think about it, and you think of it as this grand scheme of things, it's not really. It's just something that simple and feeble. She just gets her rocks off on making people upset. And she wants to be recognized for it. Like, I remember she's clipped, and there's the Netflix thing. I was watching the shit at work, and I'm watching the Netflix Watts thing that they put out, and they start talking about social media people, and you hear Kay, because I remember her even saying it, going, "She's such a bitch," just like that, right? You only hear her do it. And it's only like put out there as an example of how shitty people have been talking about Shanann as a victim. Right? So she does this, and then she actually has the audacity to get angry with Netflix for not crediting her for it. She wanted to be known for it. She wanted the credit for calling Shanann a bitch. She just wanted the recognition from getting a nod from Netflix so that her feeble little YouTube channel would grow. That's the kind of person we're talking about. We're not talking about some super villain here. But make no mistake, I feel the need to talk about her because A, it's just fucking fun, and B, her, even if her audience, even though there's only like maybe she gets maybe 75 people in there when she's doing this bullshit, even though that's the case, I mean, I gotta wonder how many of those people are teachers, who buy into this shit, people who actually have jobs to where they work with kids, people who spend a lot of time around kids. Even, I mean, even if it's just one, it's dangerous. It's dangerous as fuck. I mean, this is what she always does. And it's fascinating to me. This is the third reason, actually. It's fascinating to me that someone who's being sued for $10 million and just lost, it's as if she doesn't even realize that she lost this lawsuit and that her life is completely and totally fucked right now. It's as though she doesn't realize it, because make no mistake, if you get sued for $10 million and you don't have $10 million, dude, the judge is going to make you pay dearly, and you're going to have to sacrifice luxuries that you are used to, for the rest of your life. You're just going to be paying this person off for the rest of your life. And yet she hasn't. And the reason why she's having to do this is because she's doing what she's doing here, because she did that. She did that to Ray Andriacchio, all while completely and totally pissing on the memory of her no longer with us son, Christian. The mom was like, I'm not taking this shit. Fuck you. She got her channel removed and she's being sued for $10 million. And now she has another channel. She can't call it what she used to call it. That'll draw too much attention. She's eligible for monetization, but she doesn't want to bring that kind of attention to herself.
Because it's the crime itself is so emotionally triggering for so many people. Kathleen, my good friend, the author Kathleen Hewson, once said to me, girl, you got to stop covering these kid cases. Kid cases make people lose their minds. And she's absolutely right. When a child is murdered, it's very, very difficult for people to compartmentalize the horror of that, the sadness of that, because it's a child, right? It's very different from an older person being murdered. When a child is murdered, it's especially emotionally pulling and triggering. So it's very hard for most people to compartmentalize their emotional outrage over that, their sadness over that. It's very hard for them to not give in to that pull to somehow feel connected to the child or to fall in love with the child for whatever reason. Our brains do funny things, right? Our brains play funny tricks on us, and we all attach to certain victims more than others. There's always a case that you might feel more gravitated to than others, but it is incredibly hard for people to compartmentalize that, to think of their brain like a fishing tackle box and take all.
For some reason, it's not showing on my StreamYard chat, but Shazabanda, that's how you're supposed to say it. Shazabanda. I see it's going beach for seafood. GTS not guild. I don't even know what that means, but thank you. Shazabanda, you win handle of the day as well.
All of those feelings, which are natural and normal, you wouldn't be human if you didn't have them. You wouldn't be empathic if you didn't have them. It's very difficult for most people to take them and set them aside and just look at a case with different eyes, more analytical, and with a design, with the understanding that you don't bring about understanding with all of those emotions because they cloud your judgment. You cannot feel empathy. It's very difficult for people to feel empathy for the perpetrator, especially in a child case. But in my opinion, it's necessary to also feel empathic towards the perpetrator if you want to get to some deeper level of understanding of why an event like this happened. And I termed it a...
There's no preventing this, dude. Okay? All there is understanding the difference between shitty people and decent people. And if shitty people are making it difficult for decent people to live peacefully, such as this person right here, by being a dangerous child murdering piece of shit, well, then she needs to be locked the fuck up. Period. That's all. There's no deeper understanding to that. There's somebody who is chosen to be absolutely narcissistic to the point to where they have decided to murder a child because they feel justified in doing so, and attack a deputy because they feel justified in doing so. This is a person who is beyond help, because she won't even be honest about the help that she needs. What she chooses to do is manipulate everyone else that she speaks to. There's evidence of this.
A shocking, what did I say? A shocking nuclear domestic family violent event. So you have to learn to compartmentalize, and a lot of people can't do that. And I understand that they can't do that, but then don't
she's
tell
so
me,
ahead
then
of
don't
us all.
pretend like you're coming to the table
Because she's so ahead of us all.
in an impartial and unbiased way. Don't kid yourself. Don't lie to yourself and tell yourself the truth. Don't lie to yourself and say that you really care about the why.
Wow.
An Air Fingers quote. And then at the same time, open a vein. I don't mean to sound cold and callous, but children die all over the world. You open a vein for every single one of them. There are children being murdered right now that you're not even aware of. You just have to be because his case or to the 24-hour cycle. His face and his story was catapulted to that level. Not all children's stories, tragic, horrific stories, get catapulted to that level. His did. Now, That's not your fault that it did, but it's your responsibility to also learn to separate your overwhelming empathy and emotions if you want to try to understand why something happened. And you have to feel empathy for both if you want to try to understand. You cannot claim to me to care so greatly about this one story out of one side of your mouth, but out of the other side of your mouth, call Letitia.
Listen, the just because this happens to a lot of kids all over the world, it doesn't mean that because we are actually focused on one, because the media gave it so much coverage. That's true. There's no denying that. The media gave it a lot of coverage, but one of the reasons why the media gave it a lot of coverage was because everyone was talking about it. The media gave it a lot of coverage, partly because of the way she was behaving and because of the way that her community was reacting to the way she was behaving. And then it became a big, big story. That's what happened. Okay? So not all the time do situations like this happen. Situations like this happening where someone is this evil and publicly behave the way that she did. That's not something that happens all the time. That's why the media covered it. And that's why we all became so interested in it. So don't sit here and justify you wanting this person to be found not guilty by reason of insanity, despite all of the evidence that she's not insane. Because again, I want to make this point again, because I'm going to make this point a lot when discussing this case. What precedent are we setting if this person gets pampered for having a mental illness when the mental illness that she has been diagnosed with is A, not an excuse for murder, and B, has proven to be so far untreatable? And that being narcissistic personality disorder. She was diagnosed with that and borderline personality disorder. These are people that if they choose to be violent and they don't choose to take the proper medication, they don't choose to get the proper help, go through the proper channels to get that help, these people are bad people. Because the person that it takes to make the decision to get help, that's the adult. Because if this person was capable of empathy, they would see how their behavior is affecting the people in their environment. And if they don't take the steps to go out and get help because they're seeing the negative effect they're having, if they don't make that decision to go get help, well, then that makes them shitty people. I mean, are we going to start just calling people who do bad things because they're selfish? We're going to start breaking that down into being a mental disorder that should be treated instead of the person being held accountable and put in prison for not giving a fuck about anybody but themselves. That's the standard we're about to set by finding this woman not guilty by reason of insanity. Is that the standard that we're going to set? Is that the precedent we're setting? Because that's the real question here. The state proved their case. There's no doubt about it. There's no doubt in anyone's mind that the state proved their case.
Tisha all kinds of names and go on endlessly about how much you hate her and what a B word and a W word, because that's your roadblock. You're not going to be able to understand people in positions of getting to the bottom of these stories. And that's all of us should be trying to, okay? Not just psychiatrists, not just psychologists, not just forensic criminal investigators. We all should want to understand those people.
No, Not necessarily. No. You really don't need to do that. I don't need to do that. I don't need to understand someone's behavior, as to the why. I don't need that. Because I have enough sense to just simply stay the fuck away from them if I can. That's somebody else's problem. Yes, it's up to the psychiatrist. It's up to the law enforcement officers. It's up to the people who are not only tasked with the responsibility of doing this, they're trained and educated in carrying out this responsibility. I am not. You are not. It's very simple.
People don't do that. They don't allow their empathy and their emotions to cloud their judgment. Dr. Dorothy didn't go in and sit down, and neither did Dr. Moore, Dr. Torres, or Dr. Gray. They didn't go in there and start calling Letitia names. They didn't go in there with hate and disgust in their hearts. They went in there as, for lack of a better word, investigators to determine an answer, to determine if she was sane.
They went in there as mental health professionals, as scientists. That's what they are. Scientists. They're not investigators. There is no lack of a better term. The term is scientists. These are people who went in there to evaluate an issue, to evaluate and determine a problem, to troubleshoot a problem. Simple. Because that's what they're trained to do. And the thing about Dr. Lewis is, no matter how much you fluff her up, no matter how brilliant you try to make her sound, it doesn't matter, because she failed to be a credible witness. She showed the court no respect. Besides that, though, she didn't even actually research the evidence of the case. If she was trying to save someone's life, because Letitia's life was in her hands. Make no mistake about that, folks. Letitia's life was in Dr. Dorothy Lewis's hands while she was on that stand. That was their entire defense. And she showed no respect to even the process that it would take to save her life, to play her role productively. She didn't do that. She failed to do that. She didn't have her notes organized. She didn't share notes in discovery with the defense or even the prosecution. She didn't do anything that she was supposed to do at the least. Like that's the crazy part. She failed at pulling off the very least of what's expected of her. The very least of what's expected of her is to actually research the case properly and share the notes with the people that she's supposed to share the notes with when it comes to the trial. Any court officer who those notes need to go to, which she was instructed to do, and she failed to do. And she wouldn't even show up to court on time. And while conducting her evaluation, she had people in the room that were a distraction and made it impossible for her to be able to conduct a thorough and accurate assessment, especially in such a short period of time. It's not even... And all she did was show, and everything that she talked about while she was on the stand was just referencing some other patient. She barely at all even touched on her interaction with Letitia. She just wanted to blast her resume. She saw being on trial and everyone on social media watching as a way to sell her books, as a way to put her name out there, as a way to promote herself. That's what she did. That's all she did. And she didn't even do it well. But the evidence, as far as what we watched in the trial, dictates that that's all she was looking for, was clout. She doesn't even, I mean, if she cared about the well-being of the person who she's deeming insane and should be spared from prison, well, then why didn't she prepare properly?
When the crime was committed. And this defense expert, Dr. Dorothy Atnell Lewis, has said very plainly that it is her expert opinion that Letitia was psychotic when she killed Gannon, that she was in a state of not being in control of her behavior, not just
basically what she did was she put up she came to build a house, and all she brought was drywall equipment and paint. No wood to build a foundation, no skeletal system. She was supposed to build a house, and she came only prepared with drywall and paint. That's it. No, she built absolutely no foundation in proving the defense's case. As a matter of fact, she helped show the prosecution's case better. I mean,
just that she didn't know right from wrong. That's secondary to that she could not conform her behavior because she was not in control of her behavior. This concept, otherwise known as dissociation, is not new. Okay, it goes back many years. And this article I'm going to read you is from April 1st, 2009, written by Heather Berlin and Christoph Koch. It's called Defense Mechanisms, Neuroscience Meets Psychoanalysis. Suppression and dissociation, two psychoanalytic defense mechanisms, are now studied by modern neuroscience. And they start out the article, and I always love it when authors do this, with a quote. Ludwig Wittgenstein: "Nothing is so difficult as not deceiving oneself." How much of what you consciously experience in your daily life is influenced by hidden unconscious processes? This mystery is one of the many that continue to confound our understanding of ourselves. We do not know how conscious impulses, desires, or motives become unconscious, or conversely, how unconscious impulses, desires, or motives suddenly become conscious. Advances in technology
You suck. I mean, she's awful. Awful. Because, listen, if we're talking about neuroscience, and that's the point you're trying to make to back up Dorothy Lewis's assessment. Well, why did Dorothy Lewis withdraw the request for the EEG if we're talking about neuroscience? Why withdraw that major instrument in neuroscience? Why withdraw the request for it? It doesn't make sense. What does it? I mean, it doesn't make sense. So, yeah, and she did that. She absolutely did that. She withdrew the request for the EEG. So therefore, she still could not get an actual she couldn't get a accurate assessment of dissociative identity disorder if she says that it's vital that you have the EEG and the MRI. But that wasn't happening, was it? So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Thanks, guys, for hanging out with me tonight, man. I had a good time. I had a really good day, man. Actually, a little bit of bullshit, but overall, yeah, it was good. I got to, yeah, I highly recommend exercise because it's just, it's incredibly helpful to one's mental health, most definitely. Guys, I love you very much. We will do this again very soon, my friends.